welcome back once again to After the Credits. Not sure if this is a fast-forward edition or not, because I actually saw this at the Dollar Theater, which means it's technically still playing in the theater, but as we've discovered before, Dollar Theaters tend to be coming out on DVD soon. But I did see it in the theater for $1. So today's movie was The Conjuring 2. What did I think of The Conjuring 2? I don't know. How did it compare to the first Conjuring? It was similar. Just kind of continues the story of the two investigators and just kind of like what they say their most haunting case was, the one that bugged them the most. So as you're going through the opening narration, you're panning back from the street and then you're like inside of this window. And then as you pan back further from the window, something about it looks very familiar. And I was like, wow, are we intentionally trying to look like the Amityville Horror House? Because, you know, Amityville Horror has that specific front edge of the house, which actually isn't the front edge, it's a side view of the house, but it's what everyone seems to know the house as. Look up online. It's actually like a huge house. So then I'm like, okay, so are we intentionally trying to look like the Amityville house from the inside? And then it says across the bottom of the screen, Amityville, New York. I was like, oh, okay, this is the actual Amityville house, or supposed to be the actual Amityville house. Turns out these guys actually investigated the Lutz family after they said the house was haunted and they moved out and never went back for their stuff. The movie does delve into whether or not some of that was real, or if it was all a hoax, or you know, if the Lutz family was just trying to make money. They did go over the actual murders that took place there. Can't remember the other family's name right off the top of my head. I knew it a minute ago. So I was like, okay, so is this just going to be about the Amityville horror? You know, is this going to be about that murder and the Lutz family? You know, I was like, is this the new Amityville remake they've been talking about doing? They just stuck the Conjuring on it because it did involve those two investigators. Which actually, as I saw that, I remember this was actually the first time I've heard of these people, was back when Amityville was real popular. I remember their names. And I knew I'd heard of them from somewhere before, and I couldn't think of where. Back when I saw the first Conjuring, this is when. Was the Amityville case. But it was so long ago, and I've only watched Amityville like twice in my life, so remembering where I'd heard of them from, oh, I used to be into paranormal stuff, so I'm sure I'd run across them at some point. But yeah, so we're following that, and it talks about how they kind of got a lot of publicity on TV and stuff based on the Amityville case, and how a lot of it was negative. Then we see the couple kind of say, you know, let's not get involved in this anymore. Something bad's going to come of it. Everyone thinks we're full of crap. Let's, you know, if we do anything, let's just keep it kind of on the down low. But I really don't want to be involved in it anymore. So, you know, let's just kind of go about our lives. We have a daughter to raise, blah blah blah. So they're going on with that, and then it shows on the screen. Meanwhile, a case similar to the Amityville case occurred overseas, and the couple was contacted to come and investigate that. So as we see, before they ever get contacted to come and investigate, we see what's happening within this other household over in England, and none of it is anyway similar to what I know of the Amityville story. Not the original murders, not the Lutz family stuff. It just, I don't know, that whole first Conjuring movie kind of had a bit more to do with the Lutzes in a way than this one did. Well, actually, no, not really, now that I think about it. Actually, this family is kind of very similar to the first Conjuring family as far as something's going on in the house, there's possession issues, blah, 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 and they're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Except now we're stationed in England. So we get to see everything that's happening there. We actually get to learn the story of them, of this family. And then the church contacts the Warrens, who are the investigators from the first Conjuring. And they're like, you know, we don't really want to get involved in it, you know, blah, blah, blah. The church is like, look, we don't need you to do anything. We don't need you to get involved. We just want you to go there for 3 days on our behalf, observe what's going on, report back to us. If you feel that it's actual possession, we'll send the church people there to take care of it. You don't have to do anything, even though they are licensed exorcists through the church or whatever. I missed that part in the first one, something like that. So they're like, fine, let's go. You know, they're like, well, we've always turned down cases in the past, but we've never abandoned a family that's in need. These guys sound like they're in need. Let's go check it out. So over to England we go. They start investigating everything, and throughout the course of the movie, we kind of learn that maybe the possessed girl is faking it. So they're kind of like trying to work out whether she is or not, blah, 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 blah. And it just kind of plays out like The Conjuring would. I will say one thing I did like about this one is there's practically no music in this entire movie except like one Elvis song, and one time the guy's singing it while playing guitar. The other time it's playing on the radio like towards the end of the movie. But throughout the rest of it, there's like no music, there's no stingers, nothing. Like when something's about to happen, you don't get that ta-da thing that like cues you in that something's about to happen, or you don't get the like the lead up, like, oh, here comes something, what, and it's, they don't use any of that. Like, it's actually a fairly silent movie, and just like randomly people will start yelling. You're like, what the hell is everyone yelling about? Probably the best scene is when the girl first starts having night terrors because she shares a room with her older sister. And the sister hears her kind of fidgeting in bed, she's like, sis, wake up, you're having a nightmare. And so then she kind of quiets down, and then the sister starts hearing someone else talking to her, and it's like, this is my house, get out. And the sister sits up and realizes her sister's talking by herself. So she listens to the conversation that her sister's having with nobody for a minute, because the sister's actually speaking both sides of it. And then she kind of like quiets her down, gets her back in bed. She's like, relax, you're having a nightmare, just calm down, go to sleep. She lays back down, and just as she's starting to fall asleep, the sister like gets up quietly, walks over to the edge of her bed, and just starts like yelling about get out of our house type of thing. So like the sister jumps up, and her sister's like right there in her face. And it's actually kind of a freaky moment because it's so silent up to that point, and you know it's coming because of how tense the silence is. But then, like, when it happens, you're like, Jesus Christ, it was startling. Other than that, though, I appreciate them not giving the abundance of stingers that horror movies tend to do now that telegraph everything, so it actually does get a jump scare out of me, where any other movie, when you have that tense music build-up, the type of thing, it's like, it's coming, you're telegraphing it, you know about how many beats that build-up has before the stinger music. So yeah, jump scares are just kind of telegraphed in new movies, but this one actually did it really well to where they snuck in quite a few. I won't go into all the details of what the story is around the possession of this little girl, but it plays out about like the first one did. Was it scary, as scary as the first one? I didn't really find the first one that scary. It was interesting. This one's sort of interesting. Is it scarier than the first one? The absence of the music stings to indicate that something's about to happen. It gets the it earns the jump scares because of how quiet it is, but at the same time, that amount of silence almost telegraphs it, except there's silence through the entire movie. There's a lot of downtime in speech. There's not a lot of ambient noise, things like that. So you're like, okay, something's probably going to happen here, but it's hard to tell because of the silence. One thing I didn't like about the movie is, with how silent it is, nobody in this movie can hear shit. For example, when they're going through the Amityville house and they're talking about what happened there, it shows like her reenacting the guy going through who had killed his family with a shotgun and shot them all in their rooms. It shows him kind of like walking into each room and like shooting them, cocking the gun, shooting the person next to them, cocking the gun, going to the next room, shooting one person, cocking the gun, shooting the other person that's laying next to them. And it's like, really, all these gunshots going off, not one of these people wakes up? The closest thing that happened was when he shot the father, it showed the mother had woke up and said, what have you done? And then he shot her. But then he goes into the room right next to them, shoots the one brother, and the other brother laying in the bed right next to him doesn't flinch, doesn't wake up, nothing, shoots him, turns around, goes to the room across the hall where his sister's sleeping, shoots her. None of these kids woke up? Seriously? I'm sorry, gunshots are loud. If a shotgun goes off in your house, you sit up and say, what the fuck was that? I don't care how heavy of a sleeper you are. That family doesn't hear anything. And then, like, this new family in England, as we're following them, Like, the daughter is screaming her head off. Her sister wakes up. The mother, who is in the room right across the hall, the brother who's in the room next door, the two brothers who are in the room next door, none of them hear any of this. None of them wake up. None of them come running and saying, what's going on? Her sister's the only one who can hear her. And then when the sister starts screaming, the mother still doesn't hear either of them. They have to run into the mother's room and say, Mom, something's going on. The little boy who's, like, screaming and hollering and everything, the mother doesn't hear him till he barges in the room and says, Mom, someone's after me, blah, blah. No one in this movie can hear anything. There's all this stuff going on around everyone. No one hears it. Sorry. It's like, at one point, there's someone banging on one of the doors that's supposedly the ghost. He's just, like, pounding on this door, and the door sounds like it's made out of steel, because it's just got that loud clang, 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 as opposed to, like, a thump, 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 like a wood door would. And it's like, even the one sister kind of comes back from the bathroom and goes, why are you banging on the door? So she could hear it down the hall in the bathroom. But no one else in the house, the mother, when she's sleeping, the brothers, none of them hear this loud bang, 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 and come in and say, what the hell is going on? Beds start levitating off the ground and slamming back into the floor. Shit starts flying around the room, crashing into walls. No one hears any of this. The mother comes in and says, what happened in here? What? Open your damn ears, people. Everyone is not this deaf. It can't be that everyone in this movie can't hear. I understand they're trying to use that whole silence to the advantage thing, but somebody's got to hear something as silent as this movie is. I would have. It could happen in the house across the street from me right now. If a gunshot went off, I'd be like, whoa, that sounded like a gunshot. Would I go out and investigate? Probably not, but I would have recognized it. If I was laying here sleeping in bed and I heard it go off, it would probably wake me up like, what was that? Thinking something fell over in the house or something, because I've done that before. When one of my neighbors was firing off rockets at 4th of July, I was like, whoa, what was that? And it woke me up out of a dead sleep. It was clear down to the end of the block, but I heard it. I woke up. But no one in this house hears anything. No one in the Amityville house heard anything. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a little weird. It takes you out of the movie a little bit that no one hears any of this stuff that someone would obviously hear. So, would I recommend the movie? If you like the first one, yes. If you like Annabelle, yes. I didn't really care that much for Annabelle. I thought it was a weaker film out of the three. I'd probably say the first Conjuring, well, the first Conjuring for what it was good. This one, close to the first one, but like I said, some things it did better, some things it did worse, so kind of second place, then Annabelle would probably be like third, fourth, fifth, whatever, because Annabelle just wasn't that good of a film. Sorry, I know they were trying to cash in on the Annabelle doll, because it was the most popular thing from the first one. That story could have been told a lot better than what it was. So what would I give this one as far as a star rating? Let's see. I'm going to give it a 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. It's not quite middle of the road. It's a little bit above, but like I said, the fact that no one could hear anything bugs the hell out of me. But so I want to knock it down from a 4. But I did like the use of the silence as opposed to the music sting, so I don't want to knock it quite back down to a 3, middle of the road, because it deserves a little bit better than that for what it did. Still, I hate jump scares in a movie that's not horror. I wish people could understand what I visualize as an actual horror film and start recreating those, because jump scares ain't it. But since no one can seem to realize that visualization, I have to consider this a horror movie. So the fact that it didn't use all the stingers and everything like horror movies do now, it earns a little bit back from that. So it doesn't quite deserve a 3, middle of the road, so it's getting a 3.5. So yeah, there you have it. That is my review of The Conjuring 2. More movie reviews are coming up. Not sure when. I'm going to try and put out a schedule because I got a lot of things going now. I got movie reviews coming back, got the cooking stuff, getting back into gaming, a couple other things in the works. So I'm going to try and start working out a schedule for certain days to do things. It's a little hard because with movie reviews I want to get them out while they're still semi-relevant, but obviously that hasn't been happening either. So I might just do like a couple of them on certain days, like games in between to fill, or maybe I'll just start doing multiple videos in a day, like a game video and a movie review in the same day. I don't know. It depends on how I got a back catalog built up already. I'm working on editing to get out, so it just depends on how I manage to fill all those out and have them stretched to fit. But yeah, so that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down there in the description and up there in the corner. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.